So let's now talk about what you need to think about when you're launching a LinkedIn ads strategy. So these are my 5 points that I generally tend to try and flesh out before I launch anything. These are the questions that I'm asking my clients when they want to launch a campaign. So I'm going to take you through each one. We'll start with objectives, then audience, then the content which you have, then budget and duration of the campaign, and then we'll talk about the metrics for success. Okay, sorry, I did just switch my video off momentarily then, but hopefully I'm back now. Okay, so the first thing that LinkedIn will ask you when you're setting up a campaign, and you guys will see this later on when I actually do set up a campaign for you, is what's your objective? You can only pick one objective per campaign that you set up. And this is really to help LinkedIn understand what it is that you're trying to achieve so that it can optimize your campaign for this objective. So if you choose website visits, it's more likely to show your ads to people who will click on websites and visit websites. If you choose engagement, it will show your ads to people who are more likely to engage with stuff rather than just scroll. So it does help those results. It also helps when it comes to measurement because it will give you the statistics and the results from your campaign based on what that objective was. Once you've set up your objectives, you cannot change, which is quite frustrating, but you'd have to just kind of set up a brand new campaign. Website visits and lead generation are the two most popular, I would say, from my experience with running ad campaigns for the past decade on LinkedIn. I'd say most people who are investing in LinkedIn ads want to see that result, that tangible result, whether that's a website visit or whether it is a lead, so an email address. However, I wonder whether we're going to see more video campaigns come out where brands are simply just trying to get people to watch their videos and use it as more of a brand awareness piece. So once you've selected that objective, you then move on to building the campaign. And one of the most important parts of the campaign build is your audience. So this is the bit which you can spend so much time in brainstorming or kind of tweaking your audiences as well. You've got some pretty standard options like where are they based? What language would you like to target them in? So what language are they using LinkedIn in? And you've also got some more sophisticated options as well, like being able to retarget people based on their email address or based on where they work. So you can put company names in. You can also use some of the kind of typical criteria that you would expect, like job title, place of work, industry, skills. So I'm going to take you through all of the options that you have available. And then later on when I demo, I will also show you how to set up these audiences as well. So when it comes to the standard attributes that you can target, I would say the most popular criteria tends to be company name. So that means you are targeting people who work for, and then a whole list of companies. So you might want to target people who work for maybe some of the like top 50 companies that have been listed in some awards, or maybe you're downloading the leads list from your CRM or getting your sales team to provide you with that. That's something that we do for one of our clients at Avocado Social, is their team will actually literally download their HubSpot data, send it over to us in a file, and then we can upload that to LinkedIn and say, we want to target these 300 companies. You can, of course, layer on criteria on top of that. So you could then say, I only want to work people that work in marketing, who work at these companies, like the top 50 ad agencies or something like that. So company name is a very popular one. Company industry, so you could go a bit broader than that. I have a client that targets the defense industry, so that's why they use that particular criteria. And then they target specific job titles within the defense industry. Company size, job title is again one of the more popular criteria to use. And as you can see in the screenshot, you don't just put one job title in, you put every single possibility of a job title, because of course people call themselves different things: social media marketing manager, social media marketing specialist, social media marketing executive, social media strategist. So LinkedIn actually recommends similar job titles once you start putting the main keywords in, which is really useful. And then you can just go through and select everyone off the list. You will find that a lot of the job titles are American. And so there may well be job titles that exist here in the UK that haven't quite translated across to LinkedIn. This happened for one of my clients who worked in healthcare, and they just couldn't find the specific job titles that they would expect to see. So what we did was we did quite a bit of research into how people were listing themselves on LinkedIn. So we went and looked at people in their target audience and tried to work out what the terminology they did use was. And so that was a really useful way just to understand who then to target. You've got job function. So that's kind of more around, which department they might be in, HR, marketing, etc. Job seniority. So entry level, senior, maybe C-suite. You've got some options there. Member schools is where they studied. So which university or even which school they went to. Fields of study, pretty obvious. Degrees as well. Member skills is kind of more broad skills that they've grouped together. I do find that one is very broad and vague, like IT. For example, would you put a social media person in IT? I'm not quite sure. So I'd probably avoid using member skills. And member groups is where you can actually target people who are part of a specific LinkedIn group. But do remember that LinkedIn groups are certainly not as popular as they used to be. So someone might be part of a LinkedIn group but have no longer have an interest in that topic, or it might not be so relevant anymore. So again, that's not really something I tend to advise using very often. You've also got, there's more. You've got the gender and age of your audience. Just be aware that, for discriminatory purposes, you may well not be able to do that, particularly if you're advertising careers and jobs. Years of experience. Company followers. So you can say, I want to target everyone that follows Microsoft or that follows Netflix, for example. So you can actually put the name of a company and target their followers, which is pretty cool. Company connections. So again, might have to refresh my memory on what this one is compared to followers. I believe that's if they've ever had a previous employment with that company, so they're connected to that company in some way. And then we get into the really juicy stuff. So that's all the audience attributes that are pretty standard because you're just going off information based on someone's profile. The next few points are more around the data in which you own as a marketer. So you can upload data into LinkedIn and match people. For example, you could upload all of the email addresses in your CRM and say, I now want to target them on LinkedIn. So if you've got a pretty decent leads list or a very healthy email newsletter list, you could upload that to LinkedIn and then start to target people with ads as well as sending them out emails. So you now have a multi-touch point approach to your campaign. Another thing that works very well is actually uploading lists of company names. So earlier in the previous slide, you'll have seen you can target company names. You can put in 200 manually, and then you hit a limit. And if you want to target any more, you have to upload a Excel spreadsheet of names of lists. So just remember, anything more than 200 companies, you then have to move over to a spreadsheet. But it's really straightforward to do and really worthwhile doing, particularly if you can get that data. So if you've got a leads list, or you use HubSpot, or you know that your client or your company can extract that information from somewhere, this can then be uploaded into LinkedIn, and you can start to target people who you're trying to get in front of. You've also got a number of retargeting options. So retargeting is when you are targeting people who've already expressed some level of interest in your business, whether that's engaging with your company page content, maybe they've been on your website before, maybe they've clicked on a previous ad that you've run in the past, or maybe you've used a LinkedIn event and they've said that they've RSVP'd, they've said they're attending. You can then target them with an ad. So there's lots of ways to actually use the signals which exist within LinkedIn as a reason why you're going to target them in an ad. And you can use combinations of all of these as well. So you can get very, very complex with how you are targeting people. For example, I ran a campaign last year for a client, and we were targeting people who had previously expressed an interest in their business. So we targeted people who had visited their LinkedIn company page, visited their website, and had RSVP'd to an event, which was an online LinkedIn Live. So those were kind of 3 touch points that we knew proved that they had an interest in this business. And then we were moving them further along the funnel, trying to get them to download a guide where we could have their email address off the back of that. So we could then get a little bit more data about them and add them to our mailing list. So that's the really important part of your strategy, is actually coming up with your audience and being as detailed as possible, speaking to other people in your organization to get as much information as possible as well. Ideally, you want to aim for an audience size of around 20,000 to 80,000. That's kind of the size I've seen the most success with. That's not to say that you can't go smaller than 20K. You've got a minimum from LinkedIn of 300. So you have to have 300 people. But sometimes, these platforms can be buggy. Sometimes it won't actually physically let you launch your campaign until you have a few more than 300. So I think I was trying to launch one for a client recently, and we had less than 1,000, but more than 300, and it still wouldn't let us launch the campaign. So having more people in your target audience not only guarantees that your campaign will go live, but it also means that you're reaching a wider audience and you're giving yourself more chance for success, because the more people that see it, the more chance people are going to click, engage with it, spread the word about it. I think LinkedIn recommends 50K as a kind of minimum. But we've worked with some pretty niche businesses over the last few years, and there just simply aren't 50,000 people that they want to target on LinkedIn. So 20,000 seems to work quite well. I think we just ran a campaign for a client over the last couple of weeks, and I believe we even went down to about 9,000 and still saw some fruitful results from that. And we could see that they were getting in front of their target audience, which is the main thing. If you can see that you are actually being seen by the people that matter. There is an option I'm going to show you a little bit later on called audience expansion. And that enables you to widen out your audience. It's a little tick box and it's all automated. And LinkedIn will basically put people into your pool of audience who they think are going to be interested. So it's AI driven, not always accurate. But if you're really stuck and you do want to expand your audience, that could be something to test. I do hear mixed reviews of that. I've used it a couple of times myself, and yes, it can get the click cost down, but you're always walking that dangerous line between it's cheaper, but are you getting the quality? Because you're not guaranteed to get in front of people that really are your true target audience. So you will get a little bit of a rundown of your forecasted results. You'll always get to see your audience size on the right, and then it will tell you things like, okay, this is roughly like how much we think you should spend on this campaign, and this is roughly like the results we think you're going to get for that in terms of clicks or leads, if lead generation was your objective.